They used to fly hour after hour. They used to flit from flower to flower. Bobby got sore, wouldn't fly no more, 'cause he caught a dozen buzzing round his honey's door.
I've talked about the epic So Weird myth arc. I've talked about 2 holiday episodes, from the struggling Thanksgiving to the fantastic Christmas. I've talked about some of my favorite standalone episodes. Now, I'm going to talk about the episode that's most odd.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Ah! Ah!
That's right, I'm gonna discuss Season 3, Episode 11, Being There. It has nothing to do with the film Being There, just bees. The gimmick of the episode is that the Molly Phillips band stops at a town run by bees who turned into people. There's no mythological basis for it, though Annie throws out a few ideas that turn out to be false. It's just bee people. Bits of dialogue suggest that the bees were jealous of humanity and wanted to be human, and just turned human. But the actual device is not explored. I get the impression that Disney Channel started shooting down the writers' ideas as too scary, so the writers just brainstormed weird concepts, and Bee People was approved, while even the writers weren't sure what the point was.
Are these people bees, or do they just think they're bees? Because they sure are acting like bees.
It's not exactly scary, not exactly funny, just a bunch of scattered ideas that could serve either storyline, and one honestly creepy image. For an episode called Being There, it ironically isn't all there. At least the bee pun in the title is appropriate, as they go out of their way to include punny copulas.
If you could be anybody in the world, who would you be?
Things we want to be, being rich or famous, being somebody else.
You get the picture. The episode is written by Tom Nursel, probably best known for co-writing Disney family film I'll Be Home for Christmas, and vulgar comedy Without a Paddle with Harris Goldberg. His strength here would be comedy and knowing how to write for children. However, all Season 3 episodes suffer the same problem of over-the-top campiness and lack of serious drama, making the plots a bit meaningless. I suspect Nursel wasn't a good fit for So Weird, but that the problems lay more on the producer side of things at Disney Channel, so I'll cut him some slack. The episode is directed by Isabel Fox. The episode bears the distinction of being one of only 3 to be directed by a woman, the others being Season 2, Episode 14, Fall, and Season 3, Episode 13, Snapshot. An analysis between the 3 episodes and other male-directed episodes may be an interesting endeavor, but it's beyond the scope of what I want to accomplish today. The plot of the episode starts off with a classic So Weird. Ned encounters trouble on the road, and the problem is explored at their next stop device. We've seen this played to great dramatic effect in Season 1, Episode 7, Angel, where they run someone over, but wait, he's an angel. And in Season 2, Episode 8, Werewolf, where they see the wolf feasting on her latest kill, go out to take a closer look, and get stalked by the creature. In Being There, Ned runs into a swarm of bees. That's it. This could be scary, but no, nothing's made of it. It's just a thematic annoyance and a reason to stop the bus. The bee mechanic freaks out at the sight of it, and it could be a point of drama and thematic intrigue that the bee people would care about life forms that these humans don't, for a theme about appreciating nature and animals. But it's not really gone into. It's just a hint that this man is a bee. This could be an indication that the bee people are dangerous, but there are no consequences for Ned killing tons of bees. When the bee people do get violent, this incident never comes up. Ned is targeted for his actions later on, and the bee people don't hold a grudge. The whole scene is a total waste of time, doing nothing more than saying, "Look, bees." It's a bit notable that the bee mechanic caring about the death of half a bee colony is a fairly individualistic take on an insect family group. Most fictional representations of hives, including later on in the episode, are highly collectivistic. Carrie blows a bee off of Ned's back, sparing the creature while apophobic Ned screams to squish it. This is a setup for the climax, where Carrie's gentleness towards bees pays off, but the whole plot device that leads to it isn't necessary. The bee could be there for any reason, not just a swarm diverting the bus. Also, why doesn't Ned's aggression come back to sting him? They go into town, called Hiveburg. which the bee people have made a literal castle to have what is effectively a sovereign city-state outside the influence of California or federal law, though I imagine the American government doesn't know of its existence. It makes sense that it be a castle, given that beehives are fortresses among insects, and I like the attention to detail that they use the German suffix Burg, which literally means castle.
Next thing you know, we'll see a knight in shining armor.
I see what you did there. The people of Hiveburg are very coordinated, all moving with purpose. I like the way their movements look bee-like, slightly sped up for effect. It's probably the best way that Fox and/or Nursel could convey the bee-ness with what Disney Channel would allow. The only bee person who isn't coordinated is the single bee girl, Loretta, but the other bees help her clean up really fast. When I first saw this, I thought the implication was that Loretta is a princess bee in line to become a queen, so the other bees leap to help her out as a social obligation to a member of a higher caste. Later I realized it's more of a bee community thing, where everybody helps each other, and Loretta isn't supposed to be particularly special. There may also be some Red Scare subtext about the community being strange and scary because it resembles communism. Everyone having a role to fill. Everyone being organized, but without soul. And Loretta being attractive because she doesn't conform like the others. It also serves to point out how much the bees hate messiness. The one insect that they don't like is a litter bug. Carrie accidentally litters. The bees treat it like a crime scene, track him down, and arrest him. Ned makes a scene, so they throw him in solitary. Again, his murdering half a beehive means nothing to the scene. Molly is directed to speak with the queen bee, posing as the town mayor. Loretta's relative significance is that she looks like Annie, who can pursue her as a friend. I imagine the girl audience got something out of the display of female friendship. It suffers from the same Season 3 itis as everything else in the episode, and doesn't have nearly the same impact as Fee's relationships with female characters like Gabe and Angel, or Lauren and Werewolf. Probably because it doesn't really have that much to do with the episode and just feels tacked on. Loretta warns Annie not to agitate the people of Hiveburg, and she connects this strange advice to the ringing in her ears that she's been hearing since arriving in town. She records a bee person and plays the sound back at a lower frequency, and then it sounds like many bees buzzing. This doesn't even begin to make sense. I assume Annie is the only one to hear it because of lightning rod powers, but then why can she record it and Jack hear the playback? Why does it sound like bee wings if they're all human now? And why does a single bee man sound like a whole swarm? Is this just some bee aura? What's going on? Annie accepts this premise without too much difficulty and more or less convinces Jack by showing the bee man licking up honey, which is weird, but not what I'd call evidence of being a bee man. Also, how could she squirt honey that far away from the bus? Now armed with knowledge, Annie knows that the secret to protecting Carrie is preventing him from agitating the bees and convincing them that they're not invaders. Unfortunately, Carrie refuses to calm down and persists in agitating the police. The fact that this is presented as annoying but generally reasonable behavior, under the presumption that the cops are human, is interesting. It effectively portrays normal human cops as good authority figures who would never hurt anyone except as a last resort, like the wholesome Leave It to Beaver model of American culture. However, this is more propaganda than an accurate depiction of American police, and certainly wouldn't be something that people of color could expect to see. The police murder of Sandra Bland isn't too far off from the bee cop's behavior. Aside from being incorrect, it's bad advice to the children at home to suggest that Carrie's agitating behavior would be reasonable in mundane circumstances.
We're getting real agitated.
I don't think that's supposed to be funny, but I like his delivery. The actors do what they can with the little they're given to convey being bee people. Annie and Jack go to join Molly in confronting the mayor, while the bees start to entomb Carrie in wax. It's strange that stinging never comes up. That's probably the most distinctive bee trait. Given the castle theme, it would be in character for the cops to carry swords instead of guns. Maybe Disney Channel censored that. At least the looming threat of the bees entombing Carrie is genuinely creepy. The episode is mildly educational in this threat, showing an aspect of bee behavior with which many people would not be familiar.
The cocoon of propolis. That's a wax. Until they can't move and they can't breathe.
They clearly did some research for this episode, possibly prompted by Disney Channel censoring stinging. So, it's especially egregious that they mess up bee sexes so much. The concept of the queen bee or ant as a ruler in line with the human monarchy, instead of just acting as the sole mother of the group, is a common mistake, but can at least be hand-waved away as artistic license. It's almost a pun. Making the 200 worker bees exclusively male is just blatantly incorrect. Maybe the writers thought that a society of female workers was too unbelievable to represent, or maybe they didn't even bother to check because they imagined they already knew. It's sexist either way. Throughout the episode, there has been evidence that the bees are starting to go hungry. The flowers that Hiveberg is known for are mostly dead. The honey production has ceased. A rare intact blossom is quickly gobbled up by a nearby bee man, and the man who goes for the honey that Annie squirts on the road isn't just doing it because he's a bee, he is unusually hungry. Hiveberg is starving. Except in Town Hall. The Queen Bee Mayor, Beatrice Ivy, a name that has bee in it two ways, Beatrice and B-I-B, is a figure evocative of Marie Antoinette, at least in her popular perception as created by antagonistic propaganda. She demands tribute of extravagant foods, while her people starve. She apparently wanted to be human, specifically so that she could have this wider arrangement of culinary opportunities. And Walter, her right-hand drone advisor, is so happy being in a position of power as a human that he's kept her in the dark about the people suffering. One might think that the problem with the flowers is that the bees are too human to pollinate them, but I think the point is that the bees are eating them with human-sized stomachs, and can neither live nor do their bee work. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Where do they get the human food anyway? Do they trade with other markets? Why can't they get food from other places? Is it just a Hiveberg economy problem? Then why focus on the flowers? In any case, the mayor eats all the delicacies while the people starve. She basically says, let them eat pollen, but there's none to eat. Molly, not knowing anything about what's going on, doesn't make much leeway with the queen. Molly doesn't extend the proper courtesies, and the queen doesn't understand human families, and thinks that Molly is a rival queen, conducting an invasion.
I'm not a mayor. Not a mayor?
I love her delivery. It's the same silliness as,
They rejected the sacred turkey.
Fortunately, Annie comes in with polite acknowledgement of the mayor's status as Queen Bee, and advocates for Carrie on the basis that he's harmless as a human who refused to hurt the bee that he found on Ned's back. The bee comes in as a character witness, and the queen lets Carrie go just in the nick of time.
Dad?
This is a shot they always used in the promo, and I have to admit, it's darn creepy. Annie convinces the queen to not listen to her drone, and verify for herself that the people are starving. Loretta shows up and pleads with her mother to return the hive to proper insect form, and the queen agrees. Walter doesn't want to go back because he likes having power, so the queen abandons him. We last see him lonely as a beekeeper among hundreds of his brothers as played by female bees. Considering that there's some editing between the shots of Walter and the non-CGI bees to only pretend that they share the same space, I really don't think the beekeeping clothes were a good idea. These aren't just some bees he's taking care of. This is supposed to be his family. Carrie and Molly almost figure out that Hiveberg was a bee community, but dismiss it as nonsense for a goofy ending where they both laugh at that absurdity. He was almost entombed in beeswax. Who cares if they're bees or not? They should call in the state police. Season 3's consequenceless plots really grate on me. Imagine instead that the wrap-up has Molly leave to get the police, along with Jack and Annie, but Annie has already done enough to get the mayor open to Loretta's suggestion. By the time the humans get back with the police, Hiveberg is abandoned. Ned and Carrie are a little worse for the wear, but they're dealing. The police find Walter, but think that he's just a nearby beekeeper and let him go. The episode could end with a cop commenting that all the flowers are dead, and Walter saying that they'll come back soon, smiling at the bees. It could be a weird, creepy note, and not just mildly goofy. Being There is almost a commentary on totalitarianism, but doesn't go as far as it needs to. It could almost have been a commentary on the importance of bees in the ecosystem, but it doesn't make the connection between the bees being better off as insects and the bee as a species playing an important role in the worldwide ecosystem. It almost makes for a good comedy, but doesn't have the serious structure to support it. Its extreme silliness works against it by not making it mean anything. Season 2, Episode 23, Shelter, is a good example of animal transformation humor done well. A mad scientist vet turns Fee and the boy she likes into dogs, and they have to try to turn human again while navigating the canine world. In context, it's a farcical breather episode, coming after 3 tense episodes. And it still has much more tension than Being There, because it takes itself seriously enough, and it serves the episode well. Humor works better when there are actual consequences. One creepy image and a few fun deliveries can't save Being There from Season 3 collapse disorder.
To be or not to be? Not to be.